Tropical cyclone is a wonder in itself. Imagine a wind speed of 240 kilometers per hour, the amount of rainfall and the type of rainfall that will go on to put all the imagination to shame. And at the same time, you can go on to find the sea at its most dangerous best. That is going to be giving you one picture. That is Bandra Worldly Link Sea Bridge. You can imagine the height of the waves which are going to be above the bridge itself, and that is not a mean bridge at all. It's almost 60 feet in height from the surface, somewhere 70 feet as well. If this is what can go on to happen in a tropical cyclone, this is a phenomena. This is something natural to such an extent that one person who is a nature lover will always go on to see God give us eyes so that we can go on to have a look at a tropical cyclone. But then, of course, the moment human beings do not go on to get adjusted to it, and they are unmindful of the fact that nature can be so undaunting and nature can be made subservient, they go on to feel the heat in this case. Tropical cyclone like that of Tauktae had been responsible for ravaging the whole of the western coast, and that has set the policymakers thinking, is it correct time right now to think and rethink about the type of a habitation that we are going to be having on the western coast, and the type of the settlements and the cities that we are going to be building on the west coast, because it is a new phenomena. Tropical cyclones, like Tauktae, frequenting Arabian Sea in a greater frequency right now is actually something that is an alarm bell for all of us in this case. Imagine it. That is what we are talking about. This type of a tropical cyclone has been increasing in frequency. Now, last year in 2020, India battled cyclones like Nisarga. And now it is going to be 2021 is Tauktae, which is raging the Arabian Sea. Tauktae is the fourth cyclone to consecutively develop in the Arabian Sea in the pre-monsoon period. That means from April to June. And this is also the third year in a row that cyclones in Arabian Sea has menaced the west coast. And that's not going to stop at all in this case. Tropical cyclones like that of Tauktae that we're going to be talking about is extremely violent cyclone. It is an extremely violent cyclone in the sense that it's one of those type of cyclones that has come so close to Mumbai. Prior to that, Nisarga made its landfall in 2020 and Vayu in 2019. They moved parallel to the west coast, but then their severity has been by and large limited in this case. And when we are going to be talking about the severity in this case, Tauktae has come up with certain things like you can imagine a wind velocity that is above 60 kilometers per hour, and some of these gusts have been 210 kilometers per hour as well. Now, with this type of an impact, with the storm surge, that is the sea in its full fury, with waves, which you can go to see it impounding the whole of the marine drive in this case, of course, the entire of the western coastal region, and Mumbai has been not untouched. Fortunately, Mumbai does not go on to be falling under tropical cyclones of such a menacity, but this has been a rarity. In essence, the western coast is not generally going to be prone to tropical cyclones. One can go to think of it, that is November 1940 had been one of those areas, one of those years which saw an unprecedented night-long havoc. And those were the days when tropical cyclones were not given any type of a name. The naming of the tropical cyclone like Nisarga, like Vayu, like Tauktae started happening only after a certain time when the Indian Meteorological Department and the World Meteorological Organization joined hands with all of these countries that it is essential for such type of cyclones to be named. In 1948, once again, there had been some amount of ravaging that had taken place in this case. And what has happened in this case was that is a good number of country crafts have been completely destroyed. Imagine 300 country crafts that were on the coast of Mumbai have been almost completely destroyed. And why is it that they have been destroyed? Because of the sea which had been raging in full fury. And it was at that point of time itself that a Norwegian vessel as well, which have been carrying some amount of cargo, it got lost and it is still lost. We have not been able to find any trace of it at all right now. The frequency of the tropical cyclones since 1948 has been increasing. Arabian Sea is not normally meant for such type of tropical cyclone, and its frequency has been increasing. The average number of observed cyclones, including both weak and strong, have been generally 2 per year from 1998 to 2019 in the Arabian Sea. It was 2019 which saw some 5 to 8 tropical cyclones visiting the Arabian Sea, and that has been maximum since 1902. This chart goes on to show you how is it that during the pre-period, that means the pre-monsoon period, the things have been different, and after that they are different, and of course post-monsoon they also go on to become completely different of sorts in this case. So why is it that these type of tropical cyclones have been increasing in frequency? Now, tropical cyclones used to be a rarity in Arabian Sea. This is largely because the weather dynamics of Arabian Sea does not normally allow the cyclones to form. And there are many types of weather rarities that do not go to allow it to form. And how is it that, and why is it that we're going to say it so? You can go to see it from this map itself, how exactly it can be explained. One of them is going to be, that is Indian Ocean, particularly the eastern portion of Indian Ocean, this portion, that goes on to have a greater frequency of such type of tropical cyclones. And when we say that there is a greater frequency of such type of tropical cyclones, it means that there are going to be always some residual remnants of the typhoons, that is the most dangerous of the tropical cyclone, that come to India. They come to visit this place, they're going to cross the whole of the Southeast Asian region. And that goes on to become one of these factors. And that's how they're going to move. This goes on to become one of these factors for an increasing incidence of tropical cyclones in these areas and in these regions. Arabian Sea is normally cooler. Now, Arabian Sea is cooler in comparison to that of the Bay of Bengal region. And Arabian Sea is cooler because of many factors. One of these factors which makes Arabian Sea cooler is because of the upwelling phenomena that is taking place. Now, this is a region where the winds go on to blow in such a manner. It is these winds that find themselves coming to India. Now, when these winds go on to blow parallel to and away from the coast, and that is what we're going to say, they are moving offshore, then these offshore winds go on to blow a good chunk of water from the surface of Eastern African region. Now, when this surface water has been blown off, then in order to replace this surface water, a good amount of cool water from the bottom of the oceans come onto the surface. That's what they're going to say. That is, they go on to upwell, that is, move upwards. So, by and large, the entire of this region, these dotted regions go on to be covered with certain things like cool ocean currents, cool ocean surface waters, and they go on to gradually cover a large portion of Indian Ocean as well. Now, such type of cool water bodies do not normally allow the enhancement of the cyclone. And why? If the water body is cooler, then the potential and the ability of this water body to allow evaporation to take place, that goes on to become limited and very, very limited. In comparison, when the water is going to be warmer the water, greater is the amount of evaporation. And why is it that evaporation is important? Evaporation is important because of two reasons. First is that evaporation goes on to provide a good amount of a source of moisture for this type of tropical cyclones to be very, very well present in this region. And second is higher the amount of evaporation, greater is the amount of latent heat content also in the air. Higher the amount of latent heat, which is going to be the main source of energy for the tropical cyclones, there is a greater chance of formation of tropical cyclones. So of late, although this is a phenomenon that is happening, but because of a lot of temperature changes and a lot of temperature increases that is taking place throughout the whole of the world, including Indian Ocean and the western portion of Indian Ocean, that is Arabian Sea as well, then the frequency has been increasing. That has been one of these factors responsible for it. And when we're going to be talking about it, this factor, we are talking about a lot of other aspects as well. You can imagine it in another way as well. That is, most of the waters of the western coast have experienced a fewer cyclone because of other regions as well. And even if it is that the cyclones go on to form, these cyclones have a tendency to veer off towards the west. For example, if this is how exactly the cyclones have formed in this region, then these cyclones have a tendency to move towards the western part, and they are responsible for affecting which region? They are going to be responsible for affecting regions like that of Oman and the Arabian Peninsula, the coastal region of the Arabian Peninsula. That is going to be one of this trajectory that is going to be followed. The second trajectory that is going to be followed is that these cyclones go on to move towards Gujarat. And you will imagine it was 1998, Gujarat has been largely ravaged by them, by these type of cyclones. So that is how they are going to move. In all, they do not go on to affect the western portion of India and the major portion. For example, these are the portions. Mumbai particularly remains by and large unaffected in this case. That's the normal trajectory that they're going to follow. Of course, all of this has been changing of sorts. And why is it that they have been changing? There are many reasons for such type of changes taking place. Once you go on to find it, the whole of this place, for example, you pick up the Indian Ocean and this portion completely, you will go on to understand it much better. This is going to be the western portion and the western Ghats. And that's how exactly good number of eastern winds go on to be moving towards the region. Now, these easterly winds are responsible for nudging the whole of the tropical cyclones towards the west. So, tropical cyclones do not normally go on to visit Mumbai. Of course, this year has been a rarity and Tauktae has been a rarity. Still, it has not been responsible for ravaging Mumbai with full force. And Mumbai people may not have imagined it, they may not have known it, what is the full force of a tropical cyclone hitting that region. There is a third factor as well. The third factor is that in general, the whole of this region is going to be a region of high pressure. This is how is it that we're going to determine it? We're going to call it that is going to be high. It's a region of high pressure. Now, high pressure basically means that this is not going to be the track of the cyclone. These tropical cyclones like Tauktae, they always go on to move along an axis that is a pathway or that is a track that is offered to them by a low pressure system. And this high pressure system is responsible for repelling such type of a tropical cyclone away from the western region. And this is the basic reason for it. This is the basic reason that tropical cyclones like Tauktae are not responsible for affecting the whole of the place. Now, coming to another aspect of it, the Indian Ocean in general, the whole of this Indian Ocean in general is going to be a warmer ocean. It has certain advantages, like it is going to be completely covered in the north with land body, and that's the reason that it goes on to be warmer. But this warming has been affecting Indian Ocean much more, and this is the basic reason looks like which is responsible for allowing such type of a tropical cyclone formation to take place. So, all in all, what we're going to say is that there are going to be many factors. There are many reasons for the formation of tropical cyclones. And these reasons are, one of them is, there is a rising temperature. When we are going to be talking about rising temperature, we are essentially talking about the temperature of the oceans. A rise in temperature means a greater amount of evaporation, and a greater amount of evaporation means a greater amount of latent heat in the atmosphere, and a greater amount of latent heat and moisture coupled with this factor that is responsible for causing a lot of extreme rain events. For example, these rain events have been what you may have observed it. Kerala rains in 2018 was also because of the same factor. And when the amount of rainfall is going to be high, it can go to take the form of either in a cyclonic form, that is with high velocity winds, or it can go on to be for 3 or 4 days of a continuous and a very high amount of rainfall, not accompanied by that much amount of wind velocity. That is the first factor. There is a second factor as well. The second factor is associated with certain factors like that of a delay in the monsoons. Now, when you going to understand that there is a summer monsoon in India, the summer monsoon extends from June to September and October, and then the winter monsoon that is going to be somewhere from December and January. The time lag between both of these monsoons is increasing day by day in the country. So what does this mean? Now, this means that the sea water is there, the oceans are there, and these oceans have a tendency of being exposed to the sunlight and a high sunlight for a good amount of a time, and the cool winds also don't going to affect the upper surface. So of course the sun is always going to be there, but then the cool winds and the wind pattern doesn't going to change so early, so that they're going to get a chance to get themselves heated more and more. So that is another factor that is responsible. And there is a third factor as well for this increasing frequency of tropical cyclones in the western region. And that is the man-made regions. That is, they are leading to sea surface temperature distribution changes as well, locally, of course, in this case. But the most important change has been a change in the aerosols. Aerosols are the ones that are responsible for depositing water over them. And it is these aerosols which will be ultimately responsible for allowing a good amount of evaporation and moisture in the atmosphere. Without aerosol, there cannot be any amount of moisture. Atmosphere requires impurities for moisture to be held in the atmosphere, all in all. If there is complete clean air, there cannot be such type of a thing at all. Now, that means, is it that it is pointing towards climatic change? Answer is that there will be certain type of factors which will be associated with it. In general, as the global warming proceeds, the ocean surface gets warmer. And because the ocean surface gets warmer, it will go to lead to intensification of the tropical cyclones. It is always going to be there. Then going to be increasing greenhouse effect. Increasing greenhouse gases go on to cause warming in the upper atmosphere. And these increasing greenhouse gases, when they go on to allow upper atmosphere to get warmed, the lower atmosphere remains cooler of sorts. Now, this is something that you can go to understand it in a different manner. We are talking about that is the lower atmosphere. This is the surface and this is the higher atmosphere. Imagining it so. Now, this is the upper portion is going to be warmer, and if it is going to be warmer, can you imagine the impact? The lower portion is going to be cooler. Of course, it is warmer because the lower portion is going to be cooler. And this will not going to allow the air to rise. That means the convection in this case is going to be impeded. Now, that is what happens because of greenhouse effect. But what is also happening because of the greenhouse effect is that the temperature of these regions are increasing. And the water temperature is very, very high. Consequently, even a 3 degrees centigrade of temperature increase in the oceans means a lot. So much so, you can't imagine this part. The water temperature is going to be very high, and because the water temperature is very high, the amount of evaporation taking place also goes on to be equally high. And it is this evaporation that goes on to become the catch. That is the ultimate catch in this case. And of course, this is what exactly becomes the reason for it. So the storm develops because of the warm ocean surface. But then there are certain type of fluctuations that keep on taking place on a regional scale. And on a regional scale, tropical cyclones are much more complex. For example, you can imagine that some regions get more active storms by changing circulation, while some regions go on to get less active. Some are more active, some are less active, and expecting some type of changes in a regional tropical cyclones means that there is going to be a lot of uncertainty associated with it. So, all in all, what climatic change has done is that it has induced a lot of uncertainty associated with the origin of the tropical cyclone, the track of the cyclone, the frequency of the cyclone, and anything associated with it. And that means that it raises another question. That is it that these type of tropical cyclones will keep on coming, and what exactly will go on to be their impact even if they happen to come? Of course, in this case, we will go on to imagine that is we are talking about that is such type of tropical cyclones, as you can go to see behind as well, that is they are responsible for damaging the coastal population. The entire of the coastal regions and coastal population goes into get damaged and ravaged to an extent you can't imagine. Because the wind gusts can go to reach as high as 160 to 190 kilometers, and of course, some of them can go to be 210, but that is not all. Tropical cyclones have a potential to reach 340 kilometers per hour of a wind speed, and when this happens, one can go to know that. And indeed, the damage associated with Tauktae has been a bit less largely because all of these tropical cyclones are going to be associated with flash floods, because this was going to be affecting Gujarat to a large extent, Maharashtra. There are not too many streams which ultimately develop such type of flash flooding. Storm surges are going to be there. That means the sea water will go on to increase. Sea water will go on to become very, very turbulent in this case. And when this sea water can go on to become turbulent, there is going to be another part along with the damaging winds as well. And of course, power shortages and outages as well. In this time when COVID relief is already delayed, one can imagine the impact of such type of a tropical cyclone and what exactly it can go on to lead to and what exactly it can go to mean as well. So such type of a cyclone has brought a lot of dose of gusty winds and which is responsible for some amount of damage also not only in the coastal areas but all the way even to Delhi, even to Western Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana as well. Of course, these places have been turned to have a very pleasant atmospheric condition and a weather condition largely because of these factors. And this is what we are talking about in general. But the overall impact of a tropical cyclone taking place before the monsoons is a different type of impact. The impact is that whenever tropical cyclones go on to take place, what they do is that they lie in the path of the monsoons. Monsoons are also moving in a northeast manner, and in between there is a continuous movement of air from southwest to northeast region. Now, as this air goes on to move in between, the tropical cyclones come, and as these tropical cyclones come, what they're going to do? What they're going to do is that this is the movement that is taking place, and in between you have a tropical cyclone. These tropical cyclones are responsible for dispersing the monsoons, and when these monsoons are going to get dispersed, they will going to get delayed as well. It's such type of a delay that is going to be pretty significant. Now, we are talking about whenever the tropical cyclone has taken place, the burst of the monsoons and the timing of the monsoons has got affected. And that can be a concern because if the monsoons go to get delayed, then so many changes can also go to take place. Now, with all of these things that happens to be taking place, do we expect that cyclonic storms and tropical cyclones will go on to impact the western coast of India much more than what they have been doing it so? The answer is yes. The reason is that Arabian Sea is getting warmer. The upper atmospheric circulation is it's getting different, it's changing also, and also that we do not going to know all about how is it that the atmosphere goes into function despite all the advances that have been made. In the post-monsoon season, the monsoons have been shifting themselves as well to a large extent, and the main concern is that the monsoons, that is the tropical cyclones, have started taking place in the pre-monsoon period. The intensification of such type of tropical cyclones also mean two things. The first is we have to rethink about having a settlement in the western part of the country, and how is it that we have to now plan our cities, because so far this was one of these factors that was not important for us, not at all important, but right now it has gone on to become really, really significant. That's factor number one. Second is having gone through it, it is significant that we must go on to think about a different type of forecasting model for making it much more accurate as well. Because if we are not able to make it, then we will not be able to warn our population, which has settled in such a huge density in the coastal regions. But then it was our choice. The only thing nature is that nature keeps on changing, and so have been tropical cyclones. They are part of the changing nature. Whenever we go to defy nature, whenever we go to go against nature, there are some of these things that we go to make it dangerous for ourselves. And it is for us to think, whatever that we have done to nature, whatever rest that we are going to be inviting, whatever damages that we are going to be inviting, is it not that we have been responsible for all of these changes? Think over it.
To have more such discussion and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. And if you like the video, please do not forget to hit the like button so that we get inspired to give more such discussions in the coming future.